There are a lot of video game characters that manage to stoke a lot of love and hate, whether it be somebody like Joel from The Last of Us, or Abby, or even something like whenever you see somebody in Final Fantasy who's a great hero or a fantastic villain. I'm sometimes most interested in the characters that are a bit more mysterious or sometimes even controversial, and Kratos is certainly one of these people. And today, I wanted to just talk about God of War. What's up, gamers? DreamcastGuy here, and specifically what I wanted to try and just dive into is that this week, God of War has finally come to PC. This is the 2018 version of God of War that was just such an award-winning masterpiece. Pretty much everybody agrees that it's probably one of the best PlayStation 4, if not best PlayStation 5 games. Everybody's excited for God of War Ragnarok, but while I was sort of just poking around on the internet, I found this article over on Siliconera, which I find to be incredibly hilarious. I kind of wanted to just read through it today with you guys and sort of just laugh at it, because no hate against the author themselves, but this is a person who seems to pretty much despise Kratos, and for some very, very funny reasons. Like, it seems like they just don't even understand the character himself. In fact, just for funsies, let's start off by scrolling to the very bottom of this and showing you the score, because despite the fact that this has a rather positive title to it, look at this to sum up, they put. This is a review of God of War on PC, which it seems like most people are saying that this is, well, one of the best PC ports of all time. It has ultra-wide support, it runs incredibly good, it's optimized expertly. This is a seriously high-budget version of a game that was already incredibly high budget. But this person says that even though this game is fun and heartfelt and great, at times it has repetitive combat, which I've never heard anybody say about God of War 2018 ever. Battles have a nice weight, but they can feel repetitive. I highly disagree with that, but here's the line that I've seen everybody screenshotting. So many subscribers have sent me this just line right here. Kratos is a gruff and distant father, which may not satisfy everyone looking for a loving game. A loving game called God of War. Like, okay. I want to go through this just because I think it's really silly. No hate against this author. We all have different opinions. You guys know I review a lot of games. My biggest, most viral videos have typically been my game reviews and stuff. My opinions are not always going to be popular, but I feel like part of the fun of these game reviews is the fact that you can respectfully disagree. And today, I wanted to just go through this because it's very funny to me that this person just doesn't seem to get it. Like, even this opening line here is just so funny to me. How do you review a game that's technically great, but doesn't provide much for you beyond a great visual experience and an occasional interesting story beat? Like, this person just seems to think that God of War is just the most lackluster AAA experience. That was my greatest concern when sitting down to finalize my thoughts of God of War as a game and as a PC experience, because the reality is that God of War wasn't just popular when it came out, it was heralded as one of the greatest games for years. Finally being part of the people who played the game and not feeling what they felt led to an interesting time. So this person straight up is saying that even though everybody else loves this, they can't get into it. You know what? Fair enough. Not every game is going to be for every person. Where it starts to get funny to me is when they start to talk about how this story works. God of War is a lore-heavy game with a seemingly endless supply of pickups, quests, and side dialogue centered around Norse mythology and the relationship between a father, Kratos, and his young son, Atreus. I played a very small portion of this on the PlayStation 4. While a bit clunky, it was one of the smoothest games I played on my console at the time. With the PC release, the question is, can I actually play it? Basically, it's so well optimized. The whole reason I stumbled upon this thing originally is because I was curious that even with a mid-range or slightly higher-end PC, could my system run it? Well, apparently yes. It's one of those games that's just so well built that it will look great on any system. But here's where the complaints begin and where I can't help but chuckle. By far the most bizarre aspect by far the most bizarre aspect of this thing, and just part of the reason I wanted to just be silly with you guys, is because it starts off so positive and then it just completely whiplash switches into some very bizarre complaints, like the fact that despite the fact that it is so graphically impressive and the fact that with that close over the shoulder view that Kratos has, you're able to view this world, but then they call this world extremely mundane. God of War has mundane exploration moments and enemy encounters that are filled with sweet observations from Atreus as he educates Kratos. Those were the moments I really enjoyed, the space where Kratos and Atreus could just exist outside of fighting and killing. Unfortunately, the slightly clunky camera angle remains, and the battles didn't always play out smoothly because of it. Transitioning from walking around the world to fighting a mob or a large troll-like creature was a bit jarring. Movements end up stiff and oddly fast. These are the times where this was my pet peeve, but God of War lacks a real jump, something I'm always looking for. Boss battles can end up repetitive, or even worse, feeling like they're inconsequential and only in the game to prolong a narrative, not test your actual skills. I have never disagreed more with, I'm like actually bumping my microphone, I'm just so spazzed out right here, but my thing is that I am just in utter shock as to how much I feel like they missed the point. My opinion about God of War's weird switching of camera angles and styles is very purposeful, in fact. It seems like the reason they did this was not a mistake, but instead a feature. The whole idea that the camera is following you along on this very tight-knit journey, and then occasionally, as your emotions change, as the combat bumps up, as your heart rate starts to increase, that's when the camera angle switches with it. There is times where things get stuck and claustrophobic while you're fighting through smaller areas, or where it slightly zooms out because you're fighting a gigantic dragon or something like that. These moments are on purpose. They're not an accident, they're a feature. So it's funny that this person would see these as detriments when they're sort of the point of the product. I also say that I do find it funny when people just keep complaining about the fact that there's not a jump button. I feel like if anything, it would have been strange to have a game that does have blocking, different styles of magic, multiple weapon types, and also a jump button. I feel like it would have made the battles feel very horizontally designed. I really feel like a jump button would have done more harm than good when it comes to the pacing of combat, especially during these boss fights. But going back to the article here, I have to laugh about the fact that they just keep complaining about how this is such a dad game. They keep saying that, like, Kratos, he's a very specific flavor of dad. Look at this. I want to read this last paragraph here because it's definitely my favorite. Sure, you can say that Kratos shows his love for his son in plenty of ways, like when he fights almost to the brink of death to protect him and he's showing him how to survive. Ultimately, every gruff correction and harsh verbal lesson took some of the shine off those moments. Seeing Kratos reach out to comfort his child, only to pull back and teach him how to be a warrior instead, pushed me farther away from the emotionality of the scene. That's the point. The whole point is that he is the actual God of War. He is the physical embodiment of chaos and carnage on the battlefield, and he's trying to be the best dad possible. His pulling back in these moments makes it more powerful because we want to just touch Atreus. We want to pat him on the back. We want to be a good dad with Kratos as much as Kratos wants to be a good dad. Like, oh my God. Moments between Kratos and Atreus that aren't laced with aggression almost feel undeserved. Kratos has to be strong. He can't allow himself to show weakness in moments that cost him. Oh my God. Yet moments between these two remain cold and unsatisfying. Circumstances make a man. That doesn't mean I have to like who he becomes. Oh my God. I wish Kratos felt more deserving of his son's love and respect. I wish the moments of him attempting to be a good father, only to draw back, weren't so prevalent. Overall, God of War feels like a game made with a specific audience, and I don't fall within those parameters. Alright, so here's my whole thing. The reason I want to make this video isn't to hate on this reviewer. I'm not saying that, I disagree very strongly with it, but I also think that different styles of opinion are great. It's cool to me that this person has something I so strongly disagree with. It's interesting to hear such a different point of view. But maybe be a little bit more open-minded. Try and understand the point of view that they were trying to convey here, which is a broken father who was raised in a chaotic battlefield, doing his best now to show his son the way. It's different. It's strong, but it's different. And I really, really dig it. But what do you think about God of War? Are you excited for Ragnarok? Are you just going to buy it day one? I did do a special freaking poll. If you don't follow me on Twitter, I did a little survey for fun, which is part of what stumbled me upon this article here. Do you think that Kratos is going to die in God of War Ragnarok? That's the question of the day. Hope you guys have a great one. Enjoy your weekend. Please give this video a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and please do me the biggest favor of all and keep dreaming. Oh man, I've been replaying God of War and it's still just, so good. Thanks so much for watching that video. If you want to see something else, you can always click this link to see what I put up last, or, subscribe and see what's coming up next. Also, I promise that whatever I do, it'll try not to suck.